Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome into my podcast. I'm your host, Josh Weber, and I don't even know what episode this is anymore at this point, so I just started naming them, and I find that's a little bit better for YouTube's algorithm and people finding these videos. I think YouTube may get a little bit confused with episode numbers and things like that, so I just put on there what the title is and go from there. And today's topic is um, boundaries and what boundaries play in our role in our sobriety and in our lives. If you're like me and you drink alcohol like I did to cope with things in life, um, then you kind of know what it's like to live without boundaries for yourself and for others. Um, Somebody on my my group forum the other day posted about boundaries, and they were, I think, new to sobriety, maybe a few months in, and questioning whether or not these boundary issues ever end because it's been stressful for them. And I put on there that they do end. They get a little bit easier as time goes on. Um, I know early on I had some issues with one of my family members, and not to get into too much detail on here, as to not throw anybody under the bus. Um, if you're on my This Naked Mind forum or my Slayer forum on Facebook, for all of you who's joining me from those groups, how's it going? And I had just recently started a Facebook group of my own called Sobriety in the Storm, and I'll pin that link at the bottom of the comments. It'll be at the top of the comments part. If you want to join on there, and we'll get into more dialogue on that group. But yeah, if you want to go on there, we'll get into more depth on that. But I did want to just point out that the pandemic was interesting in that while I quit during the pandemic, I quit 6 weeks after the shutdown started, and I had about 3 months off during that period of time, and I was like 6 weeks in, and I quit. There was no socializing, really, no getting together with people. There was no triggers at work. There was no issues with boundaries, really, because I was just at home with my family. I had no issues with that. But as things started to go back to the way they were slowly, I noticed how much of an impact that the opinions of COVID played a factor in even just like family opinions. And so I would say that I would just say that with this particular family member, I was typically open with them about pretty much everything in my life, like they were a best friend of mine. And as time went on, I started to notice that I was stressing out about this, and and what I could share and what I couldn't share, and feeling kind of like uncomfortable about that. But the more I thought about it and the more I investigated these feelings, I came to the conclusion that a lot of the boundaries that I was trying to form were self boundaries. They were things that were inside of me that I needed to work on in order to be okay with setting firm boundaries with other people. But that meant hitting my issues head on. And that was not always an easy thing to do, especially as a drinker. But now as a non-drinker, sitting with those uncomfortable feelings about these people in your life and how they fit in can be uncomfortable. And so I had a couple friends of mine within this last year talk to me about this book called Boundary Boss and how it's helped them in their life. I can't remember the author's name off the top of my head, but the book is called Boundary Boss. And two or three of them, they swore by this book, and to the point where they were just becoming a boundary boss. and that's great, and that's great for them. I didn't feel the need to read that book at that time or this past year, because I felt like I really kind of was able to come to terms with those boundaries, especially with that one family member. And it was not easy. It was not easy. It took me like 2 or 2.5 years to finally get to the point where I was like, hey, I'm okay now. Like I know who I can go to when I want to talk about things personal or in particular, and because people have opinions, they have their thoughts on things, on how things should go, and I totally get that, but sometimes that doesn't really help our frame of mind, those types of feedback. Sometimes we're just looking for encouragement or someone just to listen or any of those kinds of things. But it was when I was starting to think about the fact that I started drinking when I was 15 years old that I never really was able to learn how to form healthy boundaries with people, and even with myself, for that matter. And so I don't have the secret to this. I mean, that book might be helpful for some people. I can tell you from my own personal experience that this has taken just being vulnerable, being open to talking about how you feel about something, and sometimes we don't even know what it is that's really bothering us, but sometimes you have to initiate that dialogue with someone that you trust to kind of get to the bottom of what it is that's really like bothering you or wearing you out or just kind of weighing on you like a burden, because carrying around these burdens are heavy, and it's hard, but dealing with it is also hard. And I swept a lot of these issues under the rug, basically from the time I was a young man, 15, to an adult man at 42 when I quit drinking. And in a lot of ways, I had to learn that skill from the beginning, from that, because I never learned it in the first place. So if there's a secret I could share, I would say that just being vulnerable about your feelings, and having people that you can share those really intimate details and thoughts with, can help. And then practice, and then kind of like practicing those boundary issues with those people, and noticing yourself saying, hey, I'm about to say this to this person, and this is how they reacted in the past. Do I really want to go down that road again? And oftentimes the answer is no, I don't. And so I would just say, I'm going to hold that thought, and maybe I'll talk about it with my wife or with a friend later. But right now, I'm just going to let that thought go, and go from there. And a lot of times I started to notice that this person in particular was starting to respect my boundaries, starting to see that I wasn't opening up about personal things as much as I had been in the past, and that person also I could tell kind of withheld information from me as well, which is okay, because I didn't particularly need to know everything either of their life. So there was kind of like a boundary being set for both of us. and it's a healthy boundary, and a boundary that was never there for my entire life. And so I felt like once I accomplished my mission, because it was a mission, and I really had to dedicate myself to accomplishing this goal, which did take years. Um, and it's like that with pretty much anything in sobriety. Those things that we kind of neglected, that we didn't take care of our basic needs, um, need to be addressed. We can't sweep them under the rug. And I guess what I'm saying is that my experience is unique to me, and your experience is going to be unique to you. But if you try to kind of sweep it under the rug, it's never really going to get solved. And that's kind of what I've learned in this journey, is that the longer you kind of sweep those feelings under the rug, the more they fester and the harder it is to deal with. And so when I got sober, I knew it was going to take a while to fix things, and boundaries was like one of the last things that was on that list of things that needed to be worked out. But I wasn't able to do that right away, and it wasn't even on my radar because there were so many other things that I had to work through at the beginning, especially urges to drink. And once I worked through that, I realized that I was still having urges to escape. And why was I having urges to escape? Well, here's why. And I would figure that out, and then I would move on to the next thing. But that boundary issue kind of just was on the back burner for that whole time. And then eventually it was like, well, I spent like my second and third year in sobriety kind of working on trying to care less about what other people thought of me. And I think that really is a boundary type of an issue. And like I said, I was never really comfortable being on camera before. I was never comfortable being in front of people before. And here I am talking to you all. And I know what you're saying. Josh, you're doing YouTube videos. You don't seem to be uncomfortable talking to people. But the truth of the matter is that like social occasions still cause me anxiety. They still cause me to sometimes have these internal conflicts within me, and make me kind of second guess myself even. And that's one of the things that I still work through. That's not to say that I'll never be able to that I'm not going to be a person that socializes or is more interested in that in the future. I've never been one for like small talk. I've never been one for like getting to know people in a group setting. It's not my thing. I don't know, but for some reason, like the online forums and stuff like that, I gravitated towards those at the beginning of my sobriety. And I still notice that those groups are still like my lifeline to like socializing. That's not to say that I can't have a conversation with somebody, because I can. I'm usually better like one-on-one with people, but as far as like a group setting goes, it's like draining to me. Like it's just kind of like thinking about there's a person, another person, and the more people show up, the more I'm like, I gotta get out of here, man. This is stressing me out, and I don't know why that is. And it's one of those things that I've had to come to terms with for my own self, and kind of say, this is a boundary for myself. Like I am who I am, and who I am right now is going to be different next year, because who I am now is different than who I was last year, and I'm forever growing. And so these boundary issues, are interesting and they're worth examining. And I just would encourage you that if you're wondering how to form better boundaries, I would just kind of encourage you to kind of look within, and be vulnerable about your feelings. If you have someone like close to you, a loved one, a spouse, a best friend, or someone that's in person, I find is helpful in addition to the group settings online, or if you have groups that you meet in person, that's great too. But for me, it was just a combination of a therapist that I had, my wife, and my This Naked Mind forum, especially for those first few years, and into year 4, and now I'm on a different group on Facebook, and then, like I said, I created my own, again, which is pinned below. I'd encourage you to join there. We could go into more depth. On YouTube, I find that it's not as easy to like communicate as it is, say, with like a platform that's meant for like communication. So I would encourage you to join that link and come on in and join over there. And also, if you like and subscribe, I'd truly appreciate it. This journey is just getting started for me here on YouTube, and I'm a YouTuber. I mean, that's, content creator. I'm forever trying to come up with new ideas and new things, and a lot of times I'll see posts that strike a nerve, such as this one with boundaries, that I said, I've made 15 videos already, but I haven't made one on boundaries yet. And how cool would that be to put this on here? So that's where I am. I'd really appreciate it if you come on over and join this journey with me. For all of you that have been on here with me, love you all. And peace to you all, and sobriety. And have a great day. And we'll talk to you soon. Take care.